Hey guys, Raf here from the Endgame Investor, and today I have an interview that doesn't really belong on this channel. It's not about money, but it is about libertarianism. And since I am a libertarian and a friend of mine got expelled from the Mises Institute recently, I feel that I owe it to him to have this interview with him. That is Professor Walter Block, Dr. Walter Block of Loyola University, the Mr. Libertarian of today. Arguably, he is a student of Murray Rothbard. I met him in 2011, and he is the one who helped convert me to libertarianism, to the non-aggression principle. He was recently expelled from the Mises Institute, basically for being pro-Israel. And in this interview, we discuss what that means to be expelled from the Mises Institute, why he was expelled from the Mises Institute, and yes, we talk about Israel, which is where I live. And I know I am not a pro-statist. I hate all states, including the state of Israel. But this, of course, is a relative issue. So if you don't want to hear any of this, then don't watch this. I'm not expecting this to get a lot of views. I'm expecting to lose subscribers over this, and I'm expecting to get a lot of thumbs down. But if you are interested in what I have to say and what Walter has to say about this issue, then I guess take a risk and watch it. Good luck. I'm turning AdSense off, and there's no sponsor on this video at all. And if you know that you will not like the content of this interview and you decide to watch it anyway and you unsubscribe as a result, then you can say that that was my goal. So enjoy, whether you love it or hate it. Hey guys, Raf here from the Endgame Investor, and I have who I would call my Rebbe in libertarianism. That is Dr. Walter Block. I've known Dr. Block for since the end of 2011. That's 14 years now. When I was, fumbling in the dark, stumbling, understanding that I had just discovered Ron Paul, and I didn't really know what libertarianism was, and I wanted to just write something because I was so inspired by Ron Paul's message. And somehow I got in touch with Dr. Walter Block, and he kind of guided me as to what libertarianism even is. And that's one of the reasons why I do what I do today and why I am here in Israel preaching about money is because of Walter. That's undeniable. So
Thank you.
thank you for bringing me on board. Um,
Thanks for
yeah,
that compliment.
yeah. I mean, it's not a compliment. It's just a fact. You could take it as a compliment, but
I do. I
yeah,
do.
yeah. I mean, you're like an incubator, right? For libertarian eggs. Like you see one that can hatch, and you're like, okay, you put them in your little warm thing, and you wait until them to check. And then, like we just had chicks, two chicks actually. One of them just got eaten. Chas v'shalom. That should have happened to any of us, but we have one left, and we saw the mother, pecking at the egg and talking to it as it was hatching. So you're like a libertarian mother hen, but you're a man. I mean, okay, I'm taking this way too far.
I take it as a compliment.
All right. Okay. So the reason that we are having this conversation now is that I only heard recently that you were expelled from the Mises Institute, and the Mises Institute is also one of the institutions that brought me over, as you were part of it, and we have a book published by the Mises Institute in the background. I've donated to the Mises Institute in the past. I haven't recently. I met you in 2011, and I wrote this article for LouRockwell.com. It was a big hit about Ron Paul. You were not, I remember, I hope I'm not remembering falsely. You were not either pro-Israel or anti-Israel. You didn't really have much of an opinion on it. I'd say you were an agnostic on the matter. I made no attempt to change your mind because that's not really why I was talking to you, and I didn't really care that much since it didn't really matter to me. So, and then since you've become a vociferous proponent for the state of Israel, not in an absolute sense that you're still anti-state, you're still an anarchist, but what changed your mind? And I'm pretty sure it wasn't me because I didn't try to. So why did you depart so radically from your teacher, Murray Rothbard, who was rabidly anti-Israel but was one of the greatest libertarian minds ever?
And not only Murray and not only the Mises Institute, but also the Ron Paul Institute. I was on their advisory committee. I forget what they called it, and they booted me out of that as well. And I really don't remember how I got into it, but I'm certainly into it now. I've got a book co-authored with Alan Fuderman. You and I have published, 3 or 4 articles on Israel, defending Israel. And I got booted out of the Mises Institute, the Ron Paul Institute, the Libertarian Institute. And there are a lot of people who I've known for 40, 50 years who will not speak to me. And
Wow.
I find that very problematic. Um, Look, yes, Israel is a tough subject. There are people who have very strong views on that. But I think it's weird to excommunicate anyone such as myself because we disagree on that. But look, Murray Rothbard is pro-choice. Ron Paul is pro-life. The issue of abortion is easily as important as what's going on in the Middle East in terms of numbers of people whose lives are at stake. Probably there are more people who are aborted, and by people I mean infants or preborn children. So why doesn't Murray Rothbard boot Murray Rothbard out of the Ron Paul Institute? Why doesn't the Mises Institute boot either one or the other out? I'm not sure who. But the point is that if you can boot somebody out, if you can excommunicate them on one issue, even though we agree strongly on just about everything else, well, then you got to boot Murray or Ron out. But Murray and Ron are our leaders. I can't think of 2 people who have done more positive work for liberty than those two. And yet they're 180 degrees apart on abortion. And according to this logic that you excommunicate me and other people, I suppose, for disagreeing on Israel, is preposterous. And it's sort of on a personal level. I mean, I've been friends with these guys for 40, 50 years, and they won't speak to me. Well, part of me says, well, their loss. Part of me says, my loss too, because they were my friends. And it's just sort of non-kosher, if I can
Yeah.
put it that way, to behave like that, because uh, people disagree on complicated issues. And Israel is a complicated issue.
Okay.
So I'm sort of appalled.
What does it mean to be expelled from these institutions? Like, has anybody been expelled from these institutions before? And what does it mean that you're not allowed to attend events or that you don't get it? Like, what does this practically mean? What is it? And
Well,
who decided this?
uh, Tom DiLorenzo is the president of the Mises Institute. And he wrote me a letter saying, I forget the exact words, a very short note, you're out, or something like that, because you're a warmonger. I forget the exact words, but that was surely the gist of it.
Okay.
I must have published, I don't know, 200 or 300 op-eds on LouRockwell.com,
Hmm.
and I was just taken off. If you go look at LouRockwell.com and look for authors, you will not see me. So I
Hmm.
wrote to Lou and said, well, some of these articles that I wrote, I don't have. Could you send them to me?
Hmm.
No, he wouldn't even respond. So and then I used to speak regularly for the Ron Paul Institute only once or twice. The Mises Institute, oh, I don't know, 40, 50, 100 times. Who knows? And I've been told that I can no longer be an invited guest. And I've been told that if I come to the Mises Institute in Auburn, Alabama, I will be refused admittance. So that's what excommunication means.
Wow.
All connections are severed. This is sort of like the Ayn Rand group.
Uh-huh.
Ayn Rand group, you disagree on anything, and they'll have nothing to do with you. They'll put you
It's
in.
it's not disagreeing on anything. It's specifically this. Okay, now I want to take this is from my perspective because I'm really I'm upset, but only on a very surface level. On a deeper level, I think I understand exactly what happened here, and it, this is going to be very difficult to come across accurately because this is a lot of fine hair splitting where people didn't even know these were hairs that you could split. When I became a libertarian, thanks to you, partially thanks to you, who incubated me again, right? I immediately understood that many people in the libertarian, especially the Mises side of libertarianism, are anti-Semitic, not in the sense that they don't like Jews or like they say, "Ooh, a Jewish guy, I can't talk to him," blah, blah, blah. It's not that. It's that Jews as a national unit, as a people that are contiguous with the people of the Bible, and therefore, since the Old Testament or our Testament, the Torah, immediately from the birth of Abraham all the way to the end of the book, from almost cover to cover, is literally about how a group of people called the people of Israel have a right to a land called the land of Israel given to them. But that's the entire book. It's the entire thing. And Jews as a religion is one thing where we go to our synagogues and we chuckle and we pray and we have our language and Hebrew school, whatever. We eat matzah on Pesach and we sit in a sukkah. Do whatever you want. Sure, they don't care. They're not anti that. But when we declare, okay, you know what? We're back to what we were before. We're out of exile now and we're going back home. And yeah, and there are people there and we're gonna have a fight with them because they don't want us there and they want to kill us. And no, we're home now. That's it. That's something different. That's already when it necessitates a war. Um, Not that it logically necessitates a war. You can agree, like I don't have, there's no principled problem with other people that are not Jews being in Israel. But if they have a problem with us, there's going to be a fight and we're going to have to defend ourselves. That they are against. And anyone who denies that the Jews are not just a religion, but a nation of people is, in a sense, anti-Semitic because that's what we are. We're a tribe. And the tribalism does not, there's no compatibility of tribalism with libertarianism because libertarianism is just follow the non-aggression principle. But we're a tribe. That's the problem. So I always knew that there would be serious problems here, that I would eventually have to split from these people. Not that I would disagree with them on other issues, but families first. That's who I am.
No, I think you're making a very important point. Um, but I don't really see any incompatibility between what you've said, the tribalism, the family, and libertarianism. Um, I wouldn't predicate my defense of Israel in the dispute over property. They say that we stole their Arab land. I say that that's nonsense. We were there first. We were there, what, 2,000, 3,000 years ago? They were there 200 years ago or 150 years ago. We were there first. Look,
Yeah.
the Al-Aqsa Mosque is built above the Second Temple.
Not quite, not quite.
Yeah,
Close.
sort of.
It's not the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Ironically, the Al-Aqsa Mosque has nothing to do with it. It's the Dome of the Rock that's in the middle that's built on top of the Second Temple.
Oh, sorry, I misspoke. I stand corrected. But the first temple is even below there. And the
Yeah.
point is, um, John Locke, who we all follow, all libertarians follow in terms of who owns property. John Locke said that it was who homesteaded it first. Well, if you have the first temple here and the second temple here, and then the
Dome of the Rock.
Dome of the Rock sort of on top, you know who was there first? Look, various countries have what do you call it? Hobbies or interests. In Canada, it's hockey.
Yeah.
In the US, it's football. What is it in Israel? Archaeology. Israelis are always digging and finding out who was there first and whatever, and pottery and this and that and the other. So it's not just the Dome of the Rock and the Second Temple. All throughout Israel, we were there first. So I don't see any incompatibility between libertarianism and supporting Israel in its defense in terms of its claim that we were there first. And this goes not only for Israel, but for Judea and Samaria and Gaza and a lot of the areas around there, the Jews were there first. So I don't see any incompatibility between libertarianism, which I adhere to
Mhm.
very strongly, and defense of Israel, which I also adhere to very strongly.
All right. I'm going to try to say something that I'm also nervous about saying, but now imagine I mean, a lot of the libertarian movement in Mises even if it's not explicitly religiously Christian, the values of the West are based on the Christian Bible in the sense that Jesus had this idea that these morals are for everyone, which he's not talking about libertarianism, but he's talking about a general principle that we're all guided by these moral principles, and it's not just the Jews anymore. Now it's everybody, and I'm here to preach it. That's the basic idea of the West, and I don't have a problem with that. My problem is that Christians think that they supersede us, that our code is no longer valid because it has been transplanted by theirs. And the fact I mean, they changed their theology based on historical circumstances. Back in the Middle Ages, it was God keeps the Jews alive because he hates them so much, and look how much they suffer, and that proves it. It changes, and then now that we're back in Israel, and everything that God promised to us. I know you don't believe in God. I'm just talking from my perspective. Uh, that everything that was promised to us, almost everything, and we're on the steps of the Temple Mount right now, and we're going back there and we're bowing down, and building the third temple is conceivable at this point. It's still a little bit far off, but like we're going back there and we're praying now, like out in the open. As a Christian, if you believe that your morality is supplanted on top of the Jewish morality which started it, then if Jews are now back in their land as was promised, that means that the older Bible is not canceled out, and we're at the verge of fulfilling the final promises of it, which is going back to the Temple Mount. It's going to be rebuilt. That's subconsciously a threat to the entire theology of Christianity and therefore the entire basis of the West.
Well, I'm no theologian, but my understanding is that there are a lot of Christians who support Israel, and not slightly either, but adamantly,
Yeah,
totally.
that's also a
So,
problem. But yeah.
well, everything has got good and bad, I suppose, but
Yes, yes.
I'm not really comfortable predicating my defense of Israel on theology or on the Bible. And as you said, I'm an atheist, so it would be a little hard for me to do it.
Well,
But
historically, you do in the Bible, not theologically, but historically, the Bible is a historical document for you.
okay, fair enough. But my shtick
Mhm.
is homesteading. John Locke said that the proper owner of virgin territory is he who first mixed his labor with the land. We mixed our labor, our grandparents, not you and I, our grandparents, great grandparents mixed our labor with the land 2,000, 3,000 years ago. Islam didn't even start until I think 1,400 years ago, something like that. So we're the proper owners of this. And so to me, the Bible and theology are of interest, but I'm not really, not that I'm an expert in anything, I'm just doing my best, but I'm
Mhm.
certainly not an expert in the Bible or theology or anything like that. So I would predicate my defense of Israel on private property rights in land.
Yeah. Look, I get that. That's valid. What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to explain from my perspective why I don't think that Israel is just another subject. And you're saying this doesn't make any logical sense. Why would they kick me out for supporting Israel and being a warmonger when they don't kick anyone else? There was the case of Randy Barnett, right? And he was for the war in Iraq. Was he part of was anybody else expelled from Mises and all these other places except for you?
I think only me, but I'm not sure. Roderick Long might have been expelled also. I'm not sure. And Randy Barnett might have been also. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
I don't know. I know that Roderick Long has not appeared in the Mises Institute gatherings for many years, although at one time he did appear. And the same thing for Randy Barnett. So it's possible that I'm only third in this list of excommunicated people. I'm not sure. But Randy supported the Iraq War, which I think was problematic, and I criticized him for that. And I think Roderick Long sort of turned socialist, God forbid, horrors,
Mm.
with his thing about bossism, that unions are great and the hierarchy is no good. Well, as long as the hierarchy is voluntary, it's fine. So neither of them were expelled if they were expelled because of Israel. I was.
All right. I want to share this clip of Brett Weinstein talking about this.
We are caught in a tension between these two modes of collaboration. You've got the ancient mode, which involves lineage against lineage violence, in which, you can find this in the Old Testament. You can find it in the Quran, right? It's written in there, the rules of war and combat and how you are to view the enemy. Their outgroup, and you are to view them that way. And, effectively, they are treated as other. Or you can have a collaborative modality, and you see these two threads competing, in my opinion, inside the state of Israel.
So really you're saying it's Old Testament versus New Testament. Whether or not, you think that God inspired the writing of those two stories, they're still two different stories.
Oh, they're very different stories. They do have a relationship to each other, obviously.
Of course.
But even the way they are narratively packaged is fascinating.
Yes.
Right? You've got a father-son relationship between these two ways of viewing human interaction. The father and the son don't have the identical perspective, as fathers and sons don't, right? So even the way the story is built it is constructed in a way to be intuitive to people who have observed family dynamics. But the powerful thing here, or one of them, is it's not like the state of Israel, about which I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I can observe it. The state of Israel is caught between these two modes. It's not a simple puzzle. I mean, for one thing, the state of Israel is, even though it's like, okay, Jews finally have a homeland, right? On the other hand, look where that homeland is. It's like a ghetto in, a neighborhood of others.
Yes.
So that's a dangerous position to be in.
What Brett is saying is that from an evolutionary perspective, when people have a sense that they are from a common lineage, they will often band together to protect their perceived genes that are in common, which is an evolutionary instinct. Even though there is not that much genetic proof that every Jew is related to every other Jew going back all the way to the Bible, it's strong enough in our whatever is driving us as a people together to react in extreme ways when our alarm buttons are pushed that, oh, this is happening again. And I've seen this before because we've seen it many times in history where the Gentiles just kind of lose it and start slaughtering us, and we don't really know why. And that is what happened on October 7th. And now we are all in a panic trying to get rid of the force that is doing this. And we don't really care what people are saying because we have an existential danger that's right next to us that is proving that it will do anything to slaughter all of us. Now, since the West is not built on that kind of lineage, it's built on Christian values, which are more universalist, whereas we still have this tribalist, I'd say urges, tribalist instinct in us to defend ourselves all together, which I think is part of what drove you to become so I don't want to say pro-Israel. I'm also anti-Israel in many ways. I mean, I don't I don't love the state, but I understand it. That So what is playing out here is the Western value of let's just cooperate based on a meritocracy to the tribalist reality that there are two tribes here. There is the tribe of Yishmael and the tribe of Yisrael. Maybe not even biologically, but the Arabs themselves identify themselves as Ishmaelites. And we have the story of how they separated from the Israelites through the expulsion of one of them. It's the same story again. And I'm not saying the story is historically true. I'm saying they identify that story, and that's specifically the one that they change in their Bible. This is playing out all over again. There's a big tribal issue here, and Western values are not compatible with it. One of us is going to win and the other is going to lose. And then Christians look at this like, why can't you all just get along? I get it. And then but we say, yeah, we can't. And that's what makes them hate us as a nation, not maybe not as a religion, as a nation. It's unavoidable.
Well, I don't fully agree with this. First of all, I agree that you and I are both critics of Israel also. They're two socialists. And they don't, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I think they're twiddling their thumbs and they should be attacking the Iranian nuclear capabilities right now, yesterday.
Yeah, I
And they're not
agree.
doing it. So we're critical of
With,
Israel.
without U.S. support, without U.S. taxpayer money alone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're critical of Israel in a sense that we want Israel to do better, less socialism, more free enterprise, stuff like that. So we're hardly bitter critics of Israel. We're criticizing them for not helping themselves as much as we think they should be. Now, with regard to this tribalism stuff, you know what was happening in Israel right before October 7th? There were masses of protests, hundreds of thousands of people in the streets protesting because Netanyahu wanted to make the Israeli Supreme Court more like the U.S. Supreme Court. In
Yes.
the U.S., when somebody retires, the other Supreme Court justices don't pick his replacement. Rather, the president nominates someone and he has to get Congress to approve. Where in Israel, uh, it's very undemocratic because the voters never get a chance, even indirectly through their politicians. And yet and there were military people saying, well, we're not going to serve unless Netanyahu stops this. And also, I'm a graduate of Columbia University. That's where I got my PhD. And there are Jews in the protest groups against Israel. I mean, I regard them as, I don't know what, traitors or self-hating Jews or something like that. So I think that this idea that we've got this biological thing, we're all together in this, not really that clear that it's true.
No, no,
Um,
hold on. The example that you are citing of Jews that are against us, that I think that only proves the point even more, because they're specifically the ones that are fighting their own like the interfamilial fights are the nastiest. They get really nasty.
I think you mean intra.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Intrafamilial fights, and they're very nasty, and they can be brutal, right? If they didn't care and they didn't consider themselves part of the Jewish people, they wouldn't be the leaders and the most vociferous of these anti-Israel groups. The fact that they hate us so much is proof that they're just part of our family and they're fighting.
Okay, well, I see your point, but then it's sort of hard to refute the point because whatever the Jews do, either they're together, which is biological, or they're bitter opponents, it's biological. So it's sort of like
Okay.
is it a synthetic a priori statement
Yeah, yeah. A or not A. It's not a reductio ad absurdum. It's a reductio. If it proves everything, what's it?
yeah,
Forgot what it's called.
no matter what the empirics are,
Right.
the biological thesis is upheld, which makes the
Okay.
biological thesis a little weaker than otherwise. Uh, I don't think something else that you said I don't fully agree with, and what you said is there's got to be a war. And there's a wonderful quote by Netanyahu and I'll probably butcher it, but I got the gist of it. And what he said is, if the Arabs put down their weapons, there'd be peace. If we, the IDF, put down our weapons, there'd be no more Jews.
Yep.
So it's not true that there's this clash, that it's us against them. It's them. Those people don't like us too much.
Mhm.
We are willing to work with them. Look, they call it an apartheid state, sort of like South Africa. But Jews, Arabs are what, 20% of the Israeli population, give or take? And they have their own political party in the Knesset, and their judges and their policemen and their army officers and their professors, and they're treated decently. So this whole idea that there's this clash between the Arabs and the Israelis, no, it's a clash because the Arabs are bad guys. The Arabs are vicious, nasty, murderers, genocide types, whereas the Israelis are not. The Israelis are instead of bombing a hospital, they put a leaflet down and say, we're going to bomb a hospital. Why are they bombing the hospital in the first place? That doesn't sound too kosher. Well, it's because they've got weapons in there, and they use their people as shields. And, so this is just vicious, nasty stuff on their part. We're the good guys. We wear the white hats. They wear the black hats in the Western movies.
Mhm.
So it's not that it's us against them. It's they want to have a fight. We don't want to have a fight. We want peace. We're the people of the book. They're the people of genocide. I mean, what happened on October 7th, 2023 was a war crime or a genocide. I mean, they aimed at civilians. We don't aim at civilians. The reason I'm now including myself as we, I'm now an Israeli, but my heart is there. We don't aim at civilians. We kill civilians because they use them as shields. What are we supposed to do? Not do that? Look, I now have here. Um, what do I have here? I have my two children. They're strapped to my front. And where's my knife? Here's my knife. It's a pen. And I'm going to come kill you. And you're a dirty Jew, and I'm going to kill you. And Hitler had a good start, but I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to kill all your family. But I've got my two children strapped right here. Now, if you were an excellent shot, you could hit me in the head, and my children would be saved. But you're not that good a shot. The only way you can be sure to kill me is go right through my chest where my children are. And now there are two questions. One, should you shoot me? And the answer is, God damn it, yes. Otherwise, you're committing suicide. And then the second question is, if you shoot me and you kill my innocent children, they're only 2 years old, they're obviously innocent. Who is responsible for the death of my children? I am.
Yeah.
I'm Hamas. You're Israel. So this idea nowadays, the 50,000 people, Gazans were killed, and now the Israeli army is in there again, and every day they kill another dozen or another score of people. Who is responsible for those deaths? It's not the IDF, it's Hamas.
Well, look, on a surface level, I agree with what you're saying because factually it's all true. But you know, again, I'm speaking from my theological perspective. I don't th because I think that's the key to it all. That this really is a religious theological argument that Israelis that the, this is another thing what Brett was saying, that Israel is stuck between Western values and Jewish values, which are tribal and familial. The It doesn't want to be tribal, but the Arabs pick at us and say, "You're Jews, you got to get out of here." And then we're like, "Can't we just live? Can't we just live together as like a country with you in it and us in it?" And they're like, "No." But then we don't want that. We want to be Western. We want to be a Western country in the Middle East. But then why are we a Jewish state? It's like there's this, it's just not compatible. And
Well,
the key,
The Japanese state The French have pretty much a Catholic state. The British have a pretty much a Protestant state. The Indian country, subcontinent India, has a state for what are those people called again? I forget. Hindus.
Yeah.
Uh, and various places have groups, and in Israel, it's mainly Jews. 80% are Jews. So I just don't see that as a problem. Um, and by the way, why did they come on October 7th? One possible reason is because Israel was practically having a civil war. There were millions of people, maybe hundreds of thousands, I'm exaggerating, opposing Netanyahu's attempt to democratize the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Well, the Hamas must think it's reasonable. While they're fighting each other, let's go kick their butt.
Yep.
So the left-wing Jews, the ones who are opposing Netanyahu,
Hmm.
uh, they have some responsibility for October 7th.
Yeah. They do, but it goes way back before that. I mean, we had the disengagement in 2005 that expelled all of the Jews that lived there. The fact that I mean, look, I live in the Golan, and the reason it's so peaceful here is because on the fifth day of the Sixth Day War, I think it was the fifth day, and on the sixth day, the army invaded after we were being bombed from Syria. So we invaded the Golan, which is the Golan means the height, like Ramah, it's a plateau. The tanks drove up here. The Arabs ran away. We kicked out the stragglers. The Druze didn't go anywhere, so we didn't bother them. They didn't do anything, so we left them here. So now it's just us and the Jews and the Druze, and we're fine. We have no problem with them at all. Like what and what but why is that? Why the expulsion of the Arabs worked here? It's peaceful here. Nothing happens here. We didn't expel the Arabs from Gaza in 1967. Therefore, we still have a problem, right? We didn't expel the Arabs from Judea and Samaria in 1967. Therefore, we still have a problem. We expelled them from the Golan. Therefore, we don't have a problem. It's very simple. Uh,
Well, you mentioned 2005 and 2007 when Hamas beat out the PLO.
yeah.
What Israel wanted was to make Gaza the Hong Kong of the Middle East. Those people had pretty much a state of their own. They keep yakking about a second state or a two-state solution. For all intents and purposes, they had the country called Gaza. And they had a lot of money and they had a lot of metal and a lot of cement coming in. Did they build hotels? No. Did they build salinization plants? No. Did they build, I don't know, schools or whatever? No. What they built was tunnels from which the people, the suicide bombers would come and they would put munitions and rocket launchers in hospitals. That's what they did. These are not nice people. And we got to kick their butt. And no, we should ignore them. We should go into Iran and make sure that they don't have nuclear power, not nuclear power, nuclear weapons or their nuclear facilities.
Mhm.
Well, they still have hostages. I think there are 20 or 30 live hostages and maybe 40 or 50 dead people. And now they're bitching that they're having starvation. Look, during World War II, did the Allies float food and water into Germany? Did we do that in Japan? No. Why does Israel have to be different in that regard? These bastards still have hostages. And another thing I don't like about Israel, when they have a hostage trade, you get 3,000 mass murderers in Israeli jails, and they get one guy or five guys or something like that. I mean, what's wrong with Israel that they would do that?
What's wrong with us is that we are what's called Rahmanim b'nei Rahmanim. We are the merciful, the sons of the merciful. We're the sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who were merciful people. And it's in our DNA, and we can't suffer. We just that's our weak spot. You show us a tape of someone who is kidnapped and on the verge of being murdered, and we just can't take it. We're weak in that way because we have such compassion and mercy for each other. Doesn't mean we can't fight bitterly, and we do, just like every family does. But we're an actual family that really fights hard with ourselves. And that's why those leftists came out and said, "Oh, we're not going to serve in the army because Netanyahu wants the judges elected by the Knesset instead of by the judges." I mean, that's what it comes down. It's ridiculous. But Jews are ridiculous people.
On that note, I think we
Yeah.
should end. I
All
promised you an
right.
hour. We're way
Yeah.
past, but
Okay.
this was lovely, and it's good to see you again. And let's do this again.
Okay. Good. Thanks so much for coming on.